Get ready for a night of timeless masterpieces as the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra presents Beethoven's Fifth. The evening opens with More Seasons by Michael Abels, followed by Victor Herbert's Cello Concerto No. 2, featuring internationally acclaimed cellist Ahmet Pelin. The concert closes with one of the most iconic pieces ever written, Beethoven's Symphony No. 5. Join the WCO on March 28th at 7:30 p.m. for Beethoven's Fifth. Tickets are available at wcoconcerts.org/Pelin. Today on CityCast Madison. It's Tuesday, so we're bringing you another iteration of Must See Madison.
We just left the hour film shorts, and somebody said, I hope that helped narrow it down for you. It did not.
The 2025 Wisconsin Film Fest is upon us. Running from April 3rd through the 10th, you can see over 170 curated films from across the world on Madison screens. And each year, the fest is an affair to remember. Ahead of the shows, we sat down with the festival's Director of Operations, Ben Reiser, to ask what to expect from this year's lineup. And we got testimonials from regular festival goers on what keeps them coming back. It's Tuesday, March 25th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Hi, Ben. Welcome back to CityCast Madison.
Thanks. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, Bianca.
It's a pleasure to have you. And it's a new year, new slate of films. So what, if anything, is standing out about this year's fest? Anything different?
Well, first of all, what's the same is that we are at the same venues we were at last year for basically the same amount of time. We're spending a little less time at the Barrymore than we did last year, but otherwise, our festival footprint is the same. What's different? Well, we've got 174 films to show you, which I think is about 20 more than we showed last year.
Wow.
I don't know how that happened. And I was looking at the schedule recently because even though I'm involved with planning this every step of the way, it's such an overwhelming thing at the end of the day that like it takes me about as long or longer as everyone else to sort of catch up to what the heck is showing at this year's festival and what should I go see and what are the can't miss things. And so it occurred to me that this year, seemingly more than other recent years, we're showing a bunch of films that for one reason or another are very hard to see. Not only hard to see in a movie theater, which I guess is true for just about everything these days, but just hard to see, period. So we've got this long suppressed Rolling Stones documentary from like the early 70s that really has never been released and people only ever see on a bootleg file somewhere on the internet. Mike King has been trying to track this thing down and get it shown at the festival for years, and he finally got it. So it's going to be at the Barrymore on Saturday night. Kind of a late show for us, 9:15. And I'm kind of dancing around saying the name of this film.
I was figuring. It's a little colorful.
Yeah, we can just call it CS Blues for sure.
Yeah.
But
that's why it's a late night showing.
Yeah, if you go to our website or grab our printed edition of our film guide in this month's Isthmus, you can see it in all its glory. We decided not to censor ourselves for this thing.
And Mike King, he's one of the programmers, right?
Yes, not only that, he's like the artistic director of the festival this year.
Ooh.
So he's the big man in charge. And then we've got this other thing, which I wasn't really aware of until recently, the original version of Meet the Parents. And when you say that, or when people said that to me, I'm like, yeah, of course, I've seen it. Ben Stiller, Robert De Niro, pretty funny movie, spawned a bunch of sequels. And then the people in the know say, no. That's not the original version of Meet the Parents. Meet the Parents was made, or the original version was made a few years before the Ben Stiller version. It's a black and white indie comedy from this guy, Greg Gliana, who I think wrote and directed it. Among the cast members are a comic that when I was growing up was somebody I liked a lot, Emo Phillips. Apparently, as they were shopping this film around, it caught the attention of somebody in Hollywood, I don't know, somebody at Ben Stiller's production company or some major studio, and they said, we love your film, but we don't want to distribute it. We want to buy it from you and remake it ourselves and just bury your version so no one ever sees it. And that's what happened until fairly recently, when maybe the terms of the contract expired or something. And now Greg is able to sort of show this thing.
Wow. The original Meet the Parents.
Yes, that nobody knew even there was such a thing. And here it is. And there's a couple more films like that that are really, for whatever reason, have been hard to see. And then, of course, there's some other films that are special because we're showing them on 35 millimeter, which isn't a thing that happens a lot these days. And then even more importantly, we have people who were associated with these films coming to present them and talk about them. So we have this great Matt Dillon film from, I think, the 80s. One of these things that was like an adaptation of an S.E. Hinton novel, and it was directed by Tim Hunter, who then went on to direct River's Edge and wrote and directed a bunch of other cool stuff, and now does a lot of great stuff on streaming TV and network TV. Tim is coming here to present a 35 millimeter screening of Tex. We also have Paul Verhoeven's sort of subversive masterpiece, which feels particularly appropriate for today's times, Starship Troopers, also showing an archival 35 millimeter print.
Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers. And that film's producer, John Davison, will be here, but also that film's writer, Ed Neumeyer, is coming to be part of this screening. And Ed not only wrote Starship Troopers, but wrote Paul Verhoeven's other sci-fi masterpiece, RoboCop. So the dude who wrote RoboCop and Starship Troopers is coming to show us Starship Troopers and to talk about it.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, and there's probably 20 more things like that I could rattle off, but it's a real kind of like rarities and special events delight this year at the festival.
Yeah, it can invoke some FOMO, the fear of missing out, because you may literally miss out and not be able to see this ever again.
And because it's so hard to put this whole puzzle together, 174 films at 6 or 7 venues over the course of 8 days, you know, most of the time we're running 5 or 6, 7 movies at the same time. Maybe the least amount of movies we're showing at the same time would be 3 movies. So there are bound to be all of these things that you want to see, but that they're showing at the same time, and you need to make a choice. And boy, oh boy, are some of those choices tough.
They are, and I've already come across these choices myself. And we're going to dig into that further in this conversation about actually making a plan of attack for how to pick movies. But I just want to shout out, like, the things that you just shared that are really special about the fest this year just demonstrate the sort of variety of, like, there is something for everyone. Like Starship Troopers, like fun sci-fi to serious and scary. You got it all. And you also, this is a citywide event. So there are screenings that happen across the city. Where are the screening locations this year? You mentioned a couple of them for sure.
Yeah, well, we've got our 4 venues that are on the UW-Madison campus. That's the Chazen Museum of Art, 4070 Vilas Hall, where we usually do our Cinematheque screenings throughout the year, the Marquee at Union South, where Wood Film presents their free screenings every week, and a venue that we used for the very first time last year, and as far as I know, that was the first time anyone's ever shown a movie at this venue, and that's Music Hall, which is on Park Street at the base of Bascom Hill. It looks like a church. I think it originally was a church, and then it was a lecture hall. Now it's almost exclusively used by the School of Music for their opera productions and opera classes, but we have convinced them to give it to us for the weekend so that we can show films there. And it's a really cool movie theater now that we've turned it into one.
It's a gorgeous space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to intro a film there last year.
And then off campus, we've got the Bartell Theater for the second year in a row. And the Barrymore Theater, which is our big theater, our 800 plus seat theater that we have our opening night on, which and amazingly, our opening night is sold out, and it's sold out in little over an hour. And I've never seen that happen in my 12 or 13 years with the festival. So that was
Insane.
wild. Yeah. All the theaters that I just mentioned are what we have for the first 4 days of this 8-day festival. And so that's Thursday, April 3rd, Friday, April 4th, Saturday, April 5th, and Sunday, April 6th. And then we switch over to Flicks Brewhouse all the way on the east side of town, where we take over 3 screens from them and show movies Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday was the 7th through the 10th. So that's where we get to sort of calm down a little, hunker down, stop running around town and really just sit and watch movies. And I'm just talking about the staff. We're busy like running from the Barrymore back to the Chazen, back to the Barrymore, and then over to the Bartell all weekend long. And we hardly get a chance to see the movies that we have programmed. But once we get over to Flicks, there isn't as much running around to do. So I can occasionally sneak in and watch maybe not all of a movie, but most of one.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, I bet, having multiple screens in one location.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that you brought Flicks Brewhouse up next. It's a perfect segue for bringing up the fact that the whole CityCast Madison team attended the Wisconsin Film Fest first look at the Fest event at Flicks Brewhouse. That was a couple weeks ago, and it was so fun. And this is the event where you all give a sneak preview of the festival guide and plan screenings, and the hardcore filmies get their first crack at the film guide. It was a hoot. So we talked to like a dozen or so Film Fest devotees. We didn't just come for the event. We came because we wanted to hear from people like what is special about the Wisconsin Film Fest and many other bits. So we're going to play some of that audio starting right now about, what is special about the Wisconsin Film Fest?
Well, especially since the pandemic, being part of the community and like being in a theater with people is the best part of the festival. We've had streaming services forever, but seeing everyone's reaction, hearing the gasps and the laughs is like absolutely what makes film.
It's part of Madison. It's also part of sharing the time with your friends and just knowing that you're going to be in an environment where there's a bunch of other nerds just like you that are going to see the movies and enjoying it.
There's people that I see once a year at the Wisconsin Film Festival, and I recognize them, and it's like, oh, hey, how's the last year been? But also just like seeing movies in a theater with a group, it's a different experience. And there's people that come from all over, and I like last year's festival, seeing The Wrong Man, the Dave Foley movie, with a packed theater, and like everyone like laughing hysterically at this movie. You feed off other people's energy, and it makes the film a different experience.
The amazing films that are selected to see here, you don't see them anyplace else.
Yeah, especially the international films. Year in and year out, my favorite films, I think Leslie's too, at the end of the festival are films we'd never heard of from places that we wouldn't have necessarily thought of looking for a film from Bhutan, for example.
Ben, you've been running the fest for many years. I see you shaking your head yes in agreement to listening to all of that lovely stuff. I'm feeling the same, shaking my head like, yes, praise. So we know what is special about the Film Fest. One of the highlights of the fest is the local component, the Wisconsin's Own series, which you run, where you all showcase local selections from local filmmakers. For folks who are unfamiliar with that aspect, what's the skinny on Wisconsin's Own?
Well, Wisconsin Zone is the one part of the festival where we accept submissions just from anybody who wants to pay us a little bit of money and send us their film and have us watch it. And that's what I spend the fall semester every year doing. I head up a committee comprised of myself and of one of the film studies graduate students and also an undergrad who is part of the Wood Film Committee. The three of us watch all of these submissions, and it's usually about 150 films that we get over the course of 4 months. We watch them all, and we get together every week, and we talk about what we've watched that week, and we start assembling piles of films that we think might work for the festival and films that we think might not work for the festival. It's true that we're looking for great entertaining films or interestingly creative films across all different genres and from all different kinds of filmmakers, first-time filmmakers, veteran filmmakers, all of whom have some kind of Wisconsin connection. Either they live here or they were born here or they shot the film here or they're going to school here. A lot of these films, I should say, are short films. So out of the 150 films that we saw, maybe 120 of them were short films, and then the other 30 were feature-length films. So we're putting together a bunch of short film programs where we put 10 films together, for about an hour and a half's worth of entertainment, and then people buy tickets for that shorts program. So a short that might have worked well with like 5 or 6 other shorts that we saw last year might not have that same kind of a home based on the other films we've seen that we liked this year. So some of it is kind of luck of the draw. Like, what else did we get this year? So it's an interesting process. And the other thing that's on our minds all the time is we know that these films are going to be showing side by side with all of these other amazing films, as somebody in that clip mentioned, from around the world. And we want these Wisconsin's own films to be able to stand up against those other films. We don't want people walking into the festival and saying, oh yeah, the films from Africa were great, but these Wisconsin's own films, they're only showing them because they're from Wisconsin. We want people to see these Wisconsin's own films and say, wow, these were as good as anything else I saw at this year's festival.
Behold the wonders of science. Y'all, it's that glorious time of year for UW-Madison Science Expeditions, a UW campus-wide science open house. Yup, they're opening the doors to the science labs and research centers to you and your family for free. From April 4th through the 6th, you can adventure around your top-tier public land-grant university and talk with the world-class researchers, enjoy science demos, and get hands-on at interactive exploration stations. The variety of programs is amazing. You can learn about everything from the human lung to the science behind ice cream. You can even visit monkeys in the Primate Center. Again, UW-Madison Science Expeditions events are free and open to everyone. So, see you at the destinations for exploration on campus April 4th through the 6th. Find the full schedule at go.wisc.edu/science expeditions. March is here, and it's time to make a difference. Jersey Mike's Wisconsin stores are celebrating their annual month of giving, benefiting Special Olympics Wisconsin. And don't miss the highlight, Wednesday, March 26th. It's the Day of Giving. On this special day, Jersey Mike's is donating 100% of sales. Yes, you heard that right, 100% of sales, not just profit, to Special Olympics Wisconsin. That's subs, chips, drinks, and even catering. Order in store or through the Jersey Mike's app. And know that 100% of your purchase stays right here in Wisconsin, supporting local athletes. So mark your calendars for this Wednesday, March 26th, and make your meal count. Help us give back to those who inspire us all. I want to shout out the fact that people, and I'm included in this group, have a lot of fun at the fest and get a lot of meaning from this experience. We asked folks for their favorite memories from over the years, and here's a bit of what we heard.
When I was a kid, I really loved seeing the animated features that they offered. So especially ones that I remember, like My Life as a Zucchini and stuff from probably 10 years ago, but it's still, I really enjoyed them. And I think that, it's great to take your kids to see some features at the festival.
I think in 2013, I got to see John Waters' Polyester, which has smell-o-vision. So they gave out scratch and sniff cards. And they all smell bad, so eventually it all just kind of smells like diapers.
One of my first ones was at the Orpheum for Bone Cop, Bad Cop back in 2009 or 8, I believe. 2008, the 10th anniversary. Again, packed Orpheum. You felt as one with the crowd, laughing, cringing, everything as you experienced that movie, which was wonderful. Another one for me was Being Bucky. We packed Monona Terrace, and Buc-ee's were there, and it was beyond exciting and fun, and we got as many people in as we could see it, and they're all engaged and excited, and the Buc-ee's were being very Bucky. It was great.
My first year that I volunteered, we were showing Being Bucky. And that film was about all the mascots, the students that are who play Bucky as the mascot. And that year, all the students that were Bucky that were interviewed in the film came, and we did a Q&A afterwards. And Bucky was actually dressed up in costume. Bucky was there. The real Bucky, yes, he was. And it was really funny interacting it with him because I was trying to put seats up and then he was in my way. And I had to do you need to move, please, so I can put these seats down? It was pretty fun. Yeah, and then he turned around because his back was to me because someone was pointing look behind you, and then he saw me carrying these chairs. And on top of it, that year I was 6 months pregnant. That year, and I was carrying chairs, and he was like, "No, I'll take the chairs from you." So that was one of my fun memories of my first year there.
Bucky's beloved. Sounds like a wild, wild time.
That's funny that Perry mentioned Bone Cop, Bad Cop, because that was actually the first film I saw at the Wisconsin Film Festival. I moved here in 1997, but I did not go to the festival the first, almost 10 years that it was there, because I would see the film guide in the Isthmus, and I was scared. I thought, wow, even though I was a film guy, I'd gone to school for filmmaking, a bit of a cinephile, I just thought, I don't know that I'm cool enough to go to see these movies. I don't know what to see out of all these selections. It was overwhelming. But then my neighbor Alberto just dragged me to that Bone Cop, Bad Cop screening, and I realized, oh, this isn't some fancy clique. This is a bunch of just people hanging out and laughing at a sort of goofy French Canadian buddy cop movie. So yeah, it was a great initiation into the festival.
I love that. And speaking about great goofy movies, we want to turn to talk about what's on deck for the movies this year. And a regular highlight for the fest is opening night, which already had excitement, as you mentioned at the top, that it's sold out within an hour. That's so wild. Do you want to share about what is planned for opening night, and then also what to do about some of the screenings that might already be sold out?
Yeah, on opening night, we're only at the Barrymore before all of our other venues open the next day. And this year, we are showing this really sort of major comedy that's going to be released, I think, sometime in May. But we've got the Madison premiere, and I think one of the first screenings of it in the United States, this movie Friendship, starring Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. And it's a movie that I actually had seen a coming attraction for on YouTube a few months ago. And I turned to Mike King, who I mentioned earlier, and said, hey, I know we're still trying to figure out what we're showing opening night. Man, it would be cool if we could show this Friendship movie. That seems like a real winner. He's like, I'm already working on it. And so we were both thinking the same thing. And we were kind of happily surprised that A24, the studio that's releasing it, said, yeah, go ahead, show it opening night. So we've got it, and we knew it was going to be a popular choice. Doesn't have subtitles. It's not a serious drama. It's just kind of a fun movie. And I think we were thinking of the time that we showed this film Hunt for the Wilder People on opening night, and that was also kind of just like a very entertaining sort of comedy adventure. And we thought, okay, this is another fairly mainstream kind of thing that I think people would get into. But I had no idea it would be that popular. I couldn't imagine us selling out the Barrymore in less than a week or two, but it only took, like I said, about a little over an hour.
Well, people know Paul Rudd, and I feel like around Wisconsin really appreciate the comedian Tim Robinson, who has the show I Think You Should Leave. I feel like his humor does really well here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you were asking about what to do about some of these screenings. And I have to say that in general, ticket sales this year have been crazy, through the roof. I mean, we had a really successful festival last year. And I feel like every year post-pandemic, we've sort of built up our audience a little bit back to the levels that we were seeing before the pandemic, where we had to take kind of a 2-year break. But this year, I can't believe how many tickets we've sold and how many screenings have sold out already of advanced tickets. And we still are, right now we're about a week away from the festival, but there's already maybe 15 or 20 screenings that have no more tickets. But we do have a long, rich history of this thing that we call rush tickets and the rush line. And so if there's a movie you want to see and we can't sell you any tickets in advance because we've sold out of them, and you really want to see it, here's what you do. You just show up at the theater maybe an hour, 45 minutes before showtime and get into this rush line, which is a bunch of other people also without tickets. And about 10 minutes before showtime, we'll take a look to see if there are empty seats. Because the thing that happens is, in the run up to the festival, some people who have all festival passes and some people who are just buying individual tickets buy a ton of tickets, maybe to 20 movies or 30 movies. And then at some point during the festival, they might be like, you know what? I don't know if I can see 20 or 30 movies. Or they get sick, or they get called out of town for some reason, or, anything can happen. I would say there are always some empty seats, 10 minutes, 5 minutes before screening time. And at that point, we will resell those empty seats to the people waiting in this rush line. And we have a really good track record of getting most, if not all, the people waiting in these rush lines into the theater in time to see the movie. So don't give up hope. Yeah.
Don't give up hope.
I expect there's going to be a long rush line on opening night for Friendship, and we will certainly get some of those people in to see Friendship.
It is kind of fun, too. It's a rush. It's rush line. It's a rush.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
This episode is brought to you by Prime Video. In the small town of Holland, Michigan, nothing is ever what it seems. Behind the tulip festivals and pretty houses lay dark secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Nicole Kidman stars in this darkly twisted thriller about a wife and mother whose quest to uncover her husband's secrets may get her more than she bargained for. Holland, streaming on Prime Video March 27th.
We asked folks at the First Look event about which films they're most excited to see. Let's hear a little bit of that.
There's a film about the Dalai Lama visiting Wisconsin, like in the 80s, which seemed really interesting. And they're interviewing people again to see like how that experience was. It's the Dalai Lama's Gift. That's what it's called. So.
The one about cheese, which I know Connor thought looked gross, called Shelf Life, looks fascinating. It's all about cheese.
Yeah, they have a program of Shirley Clark's shorts, and Shirley Clark made one of my very favorite movies out of the 1960s called The Connection, which was based on a play with a jazz band rehearsing, and a just fantastic filmmaker whose short films are very, very hard to see.
My number one choice, if I had to choose, would be The Shrouds, the new David Cronenberg film, which I've been looking forward to for a long time, and I honestly didn't expect that this would be my first opportunity to see it. And I love Vincent Cassel as the star, and that's like, I have to see that one. So everything else is going to kind of revolve around that.
We know we're going to do the short and sweet, that series, short and sweeter. This year there's 3 of them, so it's even better. 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday.
I was really excited to see that there's a screening of Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me at the Chazen over the weekend. I didn't know that was coming, so that was an exciting surprise. Like many people, I've been rewatching some Twin Peaks recently, so it'll be really special to get to see that with an audience.
All right, Ben, that was a lot of really good recommendations up there. What are some other standout screenings or hidden gems from this year's lineup?
I am particularly excited that we're showing this concert movie from this band Local H called Lifers. We're showing that at Music Hall, which is an awesome music-related venue to show a music film. I know the guys in Local H. I do a podcast with them. I've seen this film. It's one of the best concert movies I've ever seen, which I realize is probably kind of a low bar. Like, I don't think people think of concert movies as a particularly great genre, but Scott Lucas, the lead singer, songwriter, guitarist, singer for the band, has done a great job with this. He really has made some creative choices, and it really gives you the feeling that you're at the concert. It sort of like gives you that sort of sensory experience of being in a rock club with a really loud rock band on stage. And you just really feel like you're there in a way that I think a lot of concert movies don't capture.
There are so many screenings to pick from, and people approach making their selections in all kinds of ways. So we wanted like some guidance. So we asked folks on the ground for their plans of attack for picking tickets. And this is a bit of what we heard.
In my mind, this is maybe like a little bit of a foolish plan, but I kind of like to go to every venue. And so I try to do that. And sometimes that helps me narrow options. I also like to really take advantage of the on-campus screenings on the weekend. And I love seeing films in the Chazen and at 4070 and Vilas. And so I kind of prioritize things by venue in some ways just to make sure I'm going to have like a good solid day where I can like squeeze in some meals between movies and I don't have to like race between different venues that are like far apart. So I guess it's a very practical approach, but it's something I usually do at least the last few years, and it tends to work out.
It does get really complicated, and logistically it's a lot of, I mean, you have to make some tough decisions sometimes, and it's really hard, but I just, it's a whole process, but I just spend hours thinking about it and just kind of like cultivating, my itinerary.
Spend hours cultivating your itinerary. I have to say, I've already done that. I've already spent hours. I know you've spent tens of thousands of hours in there, Ben.
There is, yes, it is a thing. You have to calculate how long is it going to really on a Saturday afternoon take me to get from the Chazen to the Barrymore? Can I do it in less than a half an hour? Because that's the amount of time I have between the end of my Chazen screening and the beginning of my Barrymore screening. I feel the pain of that, and I feel the anxiety of like, where am I going to find a parking spot? And can I possibly do it? Can I just leave my car idling while I jump out and go see a movie at the Barrymore?
That's why I ride my hovercraft to all of the spots. But,
nice.
And you talked about Flix Brewhouse during the week. It makes it a little bit easier if it's in the same place.
Yes.
We do want to really quick just like talk logistics. We talked about rush tickets, but just in general, how do folks get tickets for the film fest and how do they use them? What are the basics to know there?
Well, you can go to our website, wifilmfest.org, and our online ticketing system these last couple of years is super easy to use. Like, it's almost too easy. That's available 24/7. But we also this year opened up a bunch of sort of pop-up box offices in the weeks leading up to the festival. And I think on the 26th, we're at the Mitchell Theater in the afternoon, and that's on campus. And then on the 27th, we're going to be at Leopold's Bookstore in the evening. That's on Regent Street. And then on the 29th, which is Saturday, we're going to be in the lobby of the Barrymore Theater selling tickets. So you still have 3 opportunities if you are listening to this as soon as it arrives on your device. But then also during the festival, we have box offices at all of our venues. So you can wait until you're at the festival and just walk up to the venue you want to see a movie at and buy a ticket right then and there.
All right. My last question for you before we let you go. What are you most excited for this year's fest?
Usually after the festival, I go back home to my mom's house in New York City and I go fetal for a week and have Chinese food intravenously injected into me with a side of bagels and pizza. And so that's what I'm most excited for. I'm looking forward to this festival being in my rearview mirror, and I know it's going to be a huge success and everyone's going to have a great time. So I'm not worried about it. I'm just looking forward to being able to take a sort of a calm breath for the first time in 6 months.
Well, we're looking forward to that for you, Ben. And I know I'll definitely be seeing you at the fest and even introducing some films myself. So folks listening, you might see me introducing some stuff on the stage, which is an honor. We love the Film Fest. Ben, thank you so much for all the work you do with the festival and for joining us to share the goods.
Thanks, Bianca.
That was Ben Reiser, Director of Operations for the Wisconsin Film Festival. Plus, the brave souls we spoke to at this year's First Look at the Fest event. Huge thanks to Linda, Victor, Miriam, C, Lewis, Perry, Jason, Renee, Matt, Connor, Katie, Craig, and Leslie. And a special shout out to Katrina with the Fest for including us in the event. If you want to check out the film guide and go get tickets for some screenings, go to the Wisconsin Film Festival's fabulous website, which we've linked in our show notes. That's all for today, here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, your host. If you enjoyed the show, why not share this episode with a film devotee, someone whose Letterboxd account is up to date. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, don't forget, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. So don't miss out. See y'all at the fest.